Om Namah Shivaya.
Om Sadashiva-Samarambham
Acharya
Shankaracharya-Madhyamam
Madhyamam
Asmadacharya-Puryantam Guru Paramparam
Guru Paramparam
Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahano Bhunaktu Saha Viryam Karvavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. So, we were on the 17th verse of the 6th chapter. We will chant that again. Shri Bhagavan Vacha
Shri Bhagavan
Yuktahara Viharasya
Yuktahara Viharasya
Yukta-cheshthasya karmasu
Yukta-cheshthasya karmasu
Yukta-swapnavabodhasya
Yukta-swapnavabodhasya
Yogo bhavati dukkhaha.
Yogo bhavati dukkhaha.
I'm muted, y'all. So, and we were on this particular verse and we were discussing the Ashtanga Yoga as a discipline for Samadhi. And if you remember, we had talked about the fact that we had come up to Samadhi, the 8th discipline, and we had said that Samadhi is basically an absorption in the meditation where the effort has ended. So we had talked about the basic difference between Dharana, Dhyanam and Samadhi. Dharana, we said the effort is there for the focus. And in Dhyanam, the effort is there only to retain the focus. And in Samadhi, we had said that the effort itself has stopped because there is an absorption in the object of meditation. But we also said that in Samadhi, the Triputi, the meditator, the process of meditation, and the object of meditation, the Dhyatri, Dhyanam, and Dhyayam, all the three are still very much present. And this 8th step, where there is an awareness of Triputi, but with complete absorption, this is called Savikalpa Samadhi, where there is a subject-object division, and it is very much manifest. You know there is a division. And then we said that if you practice this long enough, there will come a time when you will get absorbed in the object so much that the awareness of the self, the awareness of the Triputi is forgotten. Just like you forget that you are in a movie when you are very absorbed in the movie, you have forgotten yourself. And forgetting yourself means that you have forgotten the subject-object division. It is not that the division is not there. The division is very much there, but it is unmanifest because you are so absorbed. And this unmanifest state, we said this is called Nirvikalpa Samadhi. It is not a 9th step. Nirvikalpa Samadhi is the consequence of the 8th step. So Vikalpa Samadhi is the 8th step, is the Ashtanga, and Nirvikalpa Samadhi is the destination. It is the consequence. Therefore, we don't think of it or describe it as one of the Angas. It is not an Anga anymore, it is the very destination. And in the following verses, from here onwards, Lord Krishna is concentrating on the last 3 steps, Dharana, Dhyana and Samadhi. There is of course a difference between the meditation, the Samadhi of Yoga Sutra and the Samadhi which is talked about here, because in Yoga Sutra, Samadhi can be on the personal God, on a Ishta Devata, and here of course, this chapter itself is about Nidhi Dhyasanam. So Krishna is talking only about meditation on my own nature, meditation on Atma. So Atma Dhyanam is the subject over here. And when we say samadhi, we are saying absorption in the Atma Dhyanam thought, which means thoughts are there in my mind, but they are those thoughts which reveal the nature of my own self. They are called meditation mantras in our tradition, and you have so many of them. You have Mano Buddhi Ahankara Chittani Naham, that is there. Then Chidananda Rupa Shivoham Shivoham, that is there. Then there are exclusive texts like Ashtavakra Gita, which deal exclusively with Nidhyasana. And before moving on to the next sloka, let us try to understand what is meant by dhyana. What is the dhyana swarupam? What is the nature of meditation? We said that dharana is focusing the mind upon a particular object, the dhyayam in this case, the object of meditation. What is meant by focusing the mind? Well, it's very easy to say, focus your mind. What is meant by focusing of the mind? Focusing of the mind means that I have a vritti, a thought, which is connected to the object of my meditation. Let us say that we are talking about a very worldly object, a tree, right? A tree is called a vriksha in Sanskrit. So vriksha means tree, and we are, let us say, talking about vriksha vritti, the thought of a tree. What does Vedanta say? How does this process take place? Vedanta says that when you look at a tree, the mind flows out through the relative sense organ, in this case, through your akshaha, through your eyes. It envelops the tree, and that when it envelops the tree, the form of the tree is available to you in your mind. So it's called a thought is called a thought which is in the form of the tree. That is how you know what is the form of the tree. So, for example, in Sanskrit we call it vriksha akara vrittihi. Akara means form. So, vriksha is tree, vritti is thought. So, when you are thinking about a tree, or when you're looking at a tree, it's a vriksha akara vrittihi. If the tree is not in front of you, then you are recalling that vriksha akara from memory. But the idea is the same. The thought is in the form of the tree itself. So it's a vriksha akara vritti. If you are recalling a ghata, a pot, then your mind is focusing on the ghata. In your mind, there is a ghata akara vritti, a thought in the form of a pot, a thought having the form of a pot. If you are focusing on Lord Krishna, then there is a Krishna akara vritti, a thought which is focusing, which is in the form of the Lord Krishna's image which you have or which you are worshipping. Similarly, if you have Atma Akara Vritti, then the Vritti is focusing on the Atma. The difference here is Atma has no form. So you are forced to recall all the descriptions which you have of Atma. Whatever description you have Atma, Nirguna, Sarvavyapi, all that, eternal, everything is any thought which you are focusing upon, which is connected with the Atma's qualities or descriptions. That is the Atma Akara Vritti. Right? So whatever vritti you have in your mind, that is the object of your focus. So yat yat akara vritti tat tateva vishaya dharana. Whichever form of the thought you have, that is the form of the focus which you have. Now, when you look at a vritti, at a thought, what is the duration of the thought, of any thought? These are not things which we normally talk about. But, when you are coming to study this, I am talking about a vritti. What is the duration of vritti?
A fraction of second.
It's a kshana.
It is shanikam. It is a momentary existence. right? Therefore, when I say that I should focus on a ghata, on a pot, I am saying get the ghata akara vritti in your mind, either by looking at a ghata or by recalling the ghata from your mind, from your memory, to get a ghata akara vritti. With this statement, you have to add the previous statement that no vritti has existence for more than one shanam, more than one moment. All thoughts have got momentary existence, and therefore, if I have to focus on a pot for an extended period of time, what should happen?
The same thoughts.
Control your
Same
mind.
thought has to be generated again and again. Very soon.
Correct. The same thought. See, remember, you have to take the statement that a thought is only has only a momentary existence. That statement you cannot tamper with, because we know that from our very experience itself. And of course, Shastram also tells you there are two pramanams. Shastra pramanam is there, Anubhava pramanam is there, that every thought exists only for a moment. Therefore, you cannot negate that particular knowledge. And therefore, when you say that I must focus for 1 minute on the ghata, on the pot, I am saying that you have to generate the pot thought again and again and again. The pot vritti has to be generated again and again and again. So it becomes a flow of pot vrittis. A flow of vrittis is what is being called here as the focus, the dharanam, right? Technically, in Sanskrit, we call it sajatiya pratyaya pravaha. Sajatiya means same idea. Pratyaya, sajatiya pratyaya is the same idea. Sajatiya means same. Pratyaya here is the idea or the thought. And pravaha means the flow. So sajatiya pratyaya pravaha means the flow of similar thought. Similar thought means what? Each subsequent thought deals with the same object dealt by the previous thought. What is the advantage of doing this? Those of you who have been for extended parayanams, you will know that if you have been chanting, for example, Om Namah Shivaya for maybe 3 or 4 hours, what happens? You have gone to let us say, a function where there is parayanam going on, and the parayanam is Om Namah Shivaya. And you have chanted Om Namah Shivaya 1 hour. The function gets over, and when you come back, what is the experience that you have?
The same thing still rings in your ears.
That thought pattern has been registered in your subconscious mind now. When you were doing the parayanam, it was in the subconscious mind, but because of the extended exposure, that thought pattern has got into your subconscious mind. The mind has, so to say, fallen into the groove. And therefore, that Om Namah Shivaya, which you were chanting consciously over there, will be being repeated subconsciously in your mind all the way home. And even at home, at least for some more time, you may be doing a variety of activities. You may be doing cooking, you may be doing ironing, you may be taking a walk. You will find that at the back of your mind, that Om Namah Shivaya is subconsciously being repeated. So Vasana has been formed. Right? What is the idea of the discussion? Once such a Vasana is formed, how is it formed? By extended practice. A long period. I have taken a very simple example of 3 or 4 hours of Parayana. Now, I am saying that you do something not just for 3 or 4 hours, but you do it every day for some time, regularly, maybe twice a day, maybe thrice a day. What happens is that thought is being given a particular momentum. It is being driven into your subconscious mind. Your mind falls into that groove, so to say. And therefore, after some time, you will find that that particular thought acquires a life of its own. It acquires a momentum of its own. And that momentum ensures that deliberate action is no longer required for that thought to be present. Deliberate action means your willpower is no longer called into play to ensure that that thought continues to be there in your mind. And this is called a sukshma vritti, a subtle thought, a vritti taking place in the mind without any conscious effort on my part is called a sukshma vritti. And it is called sukshma because you are not even aware of the fact that that thought is there in your mind because you are not focusing your attention or you are not employing your willpower to have that thought. And because of this effortless focus that the mind has now acquired, what is the result? I have the thought that subject object division is no longer being felt, is no longer manifest. That thought is still there in your mind, but because it is effortless, your willpower is not being called into play. You are doing some other things, but that thought remains in your mind at a very subtle level, and you may not be aware of that thought also unless you consciously focus your mind. So in the normal state, without conscious focus, that thought continues. It is called a sukshma vritti, a very subtle thought. And in such a sukshma vritti, the subject object division is not felt. What is the proof you have this particular state every single day? In Sushupti Avastha, there is Sukshma Vritti, which registers the experience, the thought that I have had no experience. In Sushupti Avastha, there is no experience, right? Your mind is being resolved. So there is no experience excepting one. What is that one experience? The fact that I am having no experiences. That is one thought, which is a sukshma vritti. It's a very subtle thought. You are not aware of that in the sushupti avastha because your mind is not there. The fact that you have had no thoughts has been registered in your dormant mind through this sukshma vritti, subtle thought. But you become aware of it when the mind is activated. When the mind is activated, when you come out of sleep, it pulls out that dormant thought from the mind, and then you know that I have had no thoughts during the Sushupti Avastha. Okay, the point of the discussion is that in Sushupti Avastha, the thought is that I have had no thoughts. But the same, process can take place with regard to any thought. And any thought here, of course, we specifically mean aham brahma asmi thought. Aham brahma asmi vritti also can be activated, can be made into a very sukshma vritti in the same manner. Therefore, after long dharana and dhyanam on aham brahmasmi, long means continued for several months, several years maybe, when that deliberate action of yours, deliberate everyday action of yours, of sitting down and the Atma thought is there, Aham Brahmasmi thought is there, when that deliberate thought gets the required momentum, it will continue to remain in your mind. Thereafter, your willpower is no longer required because of the sheer momentum of that thought, which has been given by repeated practice. That thought is now in the form of a sukshma vritti. Your willpower is not required. And therefore, the fact that I am thinking this thought is no longer manifest. The subject-object division is no longer manifest. Please remember that I am saying is no longer manifest. I am not saying subject-object division is absent. Subject-object division is very much there, but because of the fact that the vritti has become subtle, sukshma vritti, it is no longer manifest all the time. And this state of the continuance of the sukshma vritti without calling my willpower into play. So I will repeat, this state of continuance of the sukshma vritti without my conscious effort, without my calling willpower into play, this in Vedanta we call samadhi. And since, as I said, the division is not manifest in this state, it is nirvikalpa samadhi. What division? Subject, object, instrument. The triputi is not manifest. And that is why we call it nirvikalpa samadhi. It doesn't mean vikalpa, the division is not there. It means the vikalpa is very much there, but they are avyakta avastha. They are no longer visible. They are no longer capable of being manifest. You can take the example of salt dissolved in water. You cannot say salt is not there. It has become one with the water. It has dissolved into the water. What is visible is only the water. The salt is not visible. Similarly, in samadhi, these thoughts are not experienced. They are there, but they are not experienced. And the next few verses, Lord Krishna is talking about this particular aspect, dharana, dhyana, and samadhi. So very important discussion. So any questions which you have are welcome at this point of time.
Acharya ji, I think I have got
Yes,
confused.
yeah.
So are we to infer that in the sushupti avastha, it is only the conscious and the subconscious mind which is not functioning, and the unconscious mind where the thought is being generated is still functioning? And secondly, is this therefore the sushupti avastha a kind of a nirvikalp samadhi only? Because you mentioned that the
The
thought
division between subconscious and unconscious we don't recognize. Okay.
but there is a thought, so the mind has to be
So
functional in the
mind is
thought.
there and subconscious mind is there. We don't say unconscious mind. Subconscious mind is there. In that subconscious mind, this thought is very much there. But it is subconscious because it is not manifest. The mind has been resolved, like is no longer available to you for functioning. And therefore, in that subconscious mind, this thought is very much there. Conscious mind is not there. Conscious mind means you would be aware of it. But that thought has happened in Sushupti Avastha and it is registered in the subconscious mind, but it will be pulled out only when the mind wakes up, when you come out of your sleep.
Okay. But because I used to think that, once the mind is resolved, so it is a kind of a nirvikal samadhi. If the sushupti avastha is a kind of a nirvikal samadhi, is it?
Very roughly, yes.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Any other question? All right. So now let's.
One word is sukshmritti and then the other word?
Sukshmavritti. What other word is there?
You said then it becomes a sukshmritti when you are not aware. There is no, the division is there, but you are not, it is not manifested. So that's called sukshmritti. Is there another word for when you are aware?
No, there is no other word. When it's a gross vritti,
Gross.
Okay, now we chant verse number 18. So we will chant. Yada viniyatam chittam
Yada viniyatam chittam
atmanyevavatishthate
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 निःस्पृहः सर्वकामेभ्यः
निःस्पृहः सर्वकामेभ्यः
युक्त इत्युच्यते तदा
युक्त इत्युच्यते तदा
Okay, I'm just muting you all again. So we should recall that Yoga Shastram is basically a dualistic philosophy, because so far we have talked about Ashtanga, and therefore we should not forget in our discussion that Yoga Shastram is Dvaitam. And Dvaitam means for Yoga Shastra, Jagat is Satyam and Jiva is Satyam. And Atmas are many. Jivatmas are many. Also, Nirvikalpa Samadhi is also Dvaitam only. There is no lack of Dvaitam in Yoga Shastra. And Yoga Shastra talks about Dharana, Dhyana, Samadhi, the last three aspects of Ashtanga, and putting them together, they call it as Samyama or Sanyama. Now, Dharana is basically, we discussed, focusing on an object of meditation. And in Yoga Shastra, the object of meditation can vary. A whole list of objects are mentioned in the Shastra. But in Vedanta, for Nidhi Dhyasanam purposes, Dharana and Dhyanam have only one subject, one object. And that is Brahma Satyam Jagat Mithya Jivo Brahmaiva Naparaha. It can be any one of them. It can be Brahma Satyam, it can be Jagat Mithya, it can be Jivo Brahmaiva Naparaha. Having said that, one should basically start with Jagat Mithya, because unless the Mithyatvam of Jagat is very well entrenched in your mind, the Satyatvam of Brahman is difficult to establish. Therefore, if at all we are starting with this Nididhyasanam, we would start with Jagat Mithya and slowly come to Brahma Satyam. Having done that, then we would come to Jiva Brahma are not different. Okay, what is Samadhi then? Samadhi is the absorption in the teaching. What is the teaching? Brahma Satyam Jagat Mithya Jivo Brahmayana Paraha. All Vedanta can be reduced to these three statements. Brahma Satyam Jagat Mithya Jivo Brahmayeva Napara. And this is the teaching. So, Samadhi is the continued practice of assimilation of this teaching to such an extent that the focus is so deep that the sadhaka is completely free from any distraction and is absorbed in the teaching. And in this samadhi, the meditator, the dhyatra, he is dwelling upon what? He is dwelling upon the Atma Swarupam. And Atma is Nirvikalpa or Savikalpa? Atma is Nirvikalpa. And therefore, this dwelling upon the Nirvikalpa is a deliberate thought. Atma, Akara, Vritti is very much there. But since the object of the meditation is Nirvikalpa, and through repeated practice, the Atma, Akara, Vritti has become subtle, has become a Sukshma Vritti. The subject-object division has disappeared. Therefore, the distinction between the meditator and Atma is no longer felt. Therefore, it is called Nirvikalpa Samadhi. Unlike in Yoga Shastra, Samadhi is what? Yogas Chitta Vritti Nirodha. There is an absence of thought. The elimination of thoughts is the object of Yoga Shastram. And that is why the Nirvikalpa Samadhi of Yoga Shastram is temporary. But for this Vedantic sadhaka, it is 24/7. Because elimination of thought is not the objective. The objective is to drive the Aham Brahmasmi thought into a Sukshma Avastha, and that should remain with me in Jagrada Avastha, in Swapna Avastha, in Sushupti Avastha, in all the three Avasthas. What am I? I am Nirvikalpa Atma alone. And therefore, in this particular verse, 18th verse, Krishna is talking about this Nirvikalpa Samadhi, a person, a sadhaka in Nirvikalpa Samadhi. That is the subject of this particular verse. And what is the takeaway from here? You, the meditator, you, the Vedantic student, have to stop looking upon yourself as the Ahankara. What is the Ahankara in Tattvabodha terms? It is the RM plus the RC, or rather, it is the OC being reflected in the RM, which is the RC. As a RC, remember, you can never be the OC. As a RC, you can never become the OC because your RC status is dependent upon the RM. The RM is a finite material entity subject to birth, death, and decay. And therefore, as a RC, you will fluctuate depending upon the state of the RM. What is the RM for you?
Our bodies.
The body.
Your three bodies are the RM. Your three bodies are subject to Shadvikara, and therefore you can never be free of the three bodies as an RC. Therefore, you will have continuous fluctuations in your life. And therefore, if you want to claim yourself as the OC, you have to drop the idea that you are the RC. As long as you say I, and that I implies the RC, you can never say I am Brahman. Only by dropping the idea that I is the RC, only by dropping the idea that I am the RC, only then can I claim that I am OC. Very fundamental, knowledge which a lot of students don't understand. Because in every sentence they say, if they are using two I's, you will find that one I is the RC and the second I is the OC, and then they struggled and wonder why they are unable to reconcile. Because it's very, very important to know, as a Jiva, I can never be Brahman. Because as a Jiva, I am dependent upon the body, mind, sense complex. RC is always a product of the RM. As long as RM is there, RM is finite, RM is subject to Shadvikara, and therefore let me drop the idea that I am the RC, and therefore Krishna says Yada. The first word of the verse is Yada. Yada is what? Dhyana Kale, Nididhyasana Kale, at the time of Nididhyasanam. What should happen? Viniyatam Chittam. Viniyatam can be taken as V plus Niyatam. V stands for Visheshena. So, Viniyatam is Visheshena Niyatam. Visheshena is completely, fully, without exception. Viniyatam, Visheshena Niyatam. Completely withdrawn Chittam, mind. The mind is first completely withdrawn from all external objects, which simply means that no vritti, no thought connected with an external object has to be entertained. And again, you should very, very carefully understand these words. When I say that I should not entertain any thought about an external object, I am not trying to escape from the external world. Because any escape from this world is only temporary. One necessarily has to come back to the world. And in this context, I should remember Matra Sparshastu Kaunteya Itoshna Sukha Dukkadaha Agama Paino Nityaha Am Sitikshasva Bharata. When the sense organs contact the sense objects, there will be experiences. What kind of experiences? Shita, Ushna, Sukha, Dukkha. Cold and heat, happiness and sorrow will be there. Agama Painaha Anityaha. These will come and these will go. All the experiences will come and go. And therefore they are Anityaha, temporary. What should you do? Tan titikshasva bharata. You should understand that problems are there and you should put up with them. So problems are going to be there. But as a Vedantic, I should recall every time there is a problem, I should remind myself that the problem is not for me. The problem is for Ahankara alone. The problem is for RC alone. And that is why I'm saying, as long as you think about the RC, there is no escape. Because every problem is for RC. If you think you are the RC, you are going to get involved in all the problems. You cannot say, I am the RC, but the problems won't touch me. That statement cannot be made. If you are the RC, the problem will definitely bother you. What should you say? Na sato vidyate bhavaha, na bhavo vidyate sataha, ubhayorapi drishtantaha, tvanayos tattvadarshibhi. That is what you should say. 16th verse of chapter 2. If you don't know what word it means, please go and revise it. And therefore, I should know that the problems belong to the RC, to the body. And either the problems, they are all what? Anityaha. Either the problems of the body will go away, or finally the body itself will go away. RM will go away, or the problems afflicting the RM will go away. But I, the OC, I am not disturbed. I go on forever. And therefore, during meditation, I should meditate on this. And there is, which we have not yet done, there's a 9th chapter, couple of verses which are very beautiful. Maya tatamidam sarvam jagadavyakta murtina matsthani sarva bhutani nachaham teshvavasthitaha. This entire universe, tatamidam sarvam, is pervaded by me. Who am I? Avyakta murtina. My form is unmanifest. I am that unmanifest Brahman. Matsthani sarva bhutani. All beings are in me. Nacha aham teshvavasthitaha. But I am not in them. And there is the next verse also. Nacha matstani bhutani pashyame yogamaishwaram bhuta brahnacha bhutastaha mamatma bhuta bhavana. The beings that you see, they are not in me. See my divine power. I myself am the creator of all the beings. I am the sustainer of all the beings. But I am not in the beings. Very, very beautiful slokas. The 4th and the 5th sloka of the 9th chapter. And all the 4 slokas which I have talked about right now are very beautiful slokas for Nididhyasanam. And we should constantly meditate upon this. So remember here that what is the focus of all this? The focus is that I should become a Jivan Mukta. Right? Now, Jivan Mukta, I'll introduce a small little concept here which we will not talk about much right now, but we will pick it up later during Upanishadic study. But because this is the 6th chapter, Nididhyasanam chapter, perhaps it's okay to introduce this concept because all of you all have been in this class for at least 2.5 years. So this concept of Jivan Muktaha and Videha Muktaha, do you see any problem with that concept? Videha Mukta means the person who doesn't have a body. I am free of the body now. That is Videha Mukta. So first to become a Jivan Mukta, when you have realized that you are Atma, and then when the body drops, you become Videha Mukta, Atma without the body. When you introduce this concept, we generally introduce this concept at the beginning stages only, for the beginning Vedantic student only. But the advanced student, which you all are, they need to, assimilate a bit more and move beyond this concept. Why? Why do you need to junk this concept of Videha Mukti?
Because for a jnani, the deha is no longer there.
Yes. So as a sadhaka, if you accept the fact that Videha Mukti is going to happen to you, what are you accepting?
That you still have the deha.
Body identification.
I'll say cancel the still. You are accepting the fact that you have a body.
Body identification.
If you have a body, you have ignorance. Why? Because Deha is Ajnana Janyam. The body is born out of Ajnanam. If you accept Videha Mukti, you accept that you have a body. If you accept you have a body, body is born from Ajnanam. And therefore, as long as you have a body, you can never be far away from Ajnanam. And therefore, if you have a body now, what is the corollary? You can never become a Videha later. Therefore, Videha Mukti cannot exist for a person who has a body. There is no concept of Videha Mukti for a person who has a body. Videha Mukti can exist only if you are Nitya Muktaha. If you say that I am Brahman, I was Brahman, I will be Brahman, the concept of Videha Mukti becomes irrelevant. Because when you say I was Brahman, I am Brahman, I will be Brahman, you are saying what? I never had a body. And if I never had a body, where is the concept of Jivan Mukti or Videha Mukti? So it is necessary for us at this stage to understand that we are free from Anatma. And in Vedanta, what is freedom from Anatma? Freedom from Anatma is very clearly acceptance of Anatma. Very, very important statement. Freedom from Anatma is not rejection of Anatma. Freedom from Anatma is acceptance of Anatma. If I accept Anatma, what is the advantage? I can drop the Anatma whenever I want to. I am free to withdraw from the Anatma whenever I want to. And in Atma Dhyanam, your mind has to withdraw from the Anatma, including the Sharira Trayam, which is your reflecting medium. Every thought connected with that reflecting medium, every thought connected with the objective Jagat, I have to remove from my mind. I have to eliminate from my mind. I have to eliminate my home, my wife, my husband, my money, my car, my house. Everything has to be removed from the mind. Anatma consists of your body, your mind, and the Jagat. If you remove these three Anatma Akara Vrittihi, then this is what Krishna calls Viniyatam Chittam. Visheshena Niyatam Chittam, where the mind has been completely withdrawn from all Anatma. How can one remove all Anatma Vritti? Is it possible? That is one question. And the answer is, what is the answer?
It's only intellectual withdrawal.
No, I'm talking about how can you remove all Anatma Vritti? Vritti is the mind only, intellect we're talking about.
By repetition, Nididhyasana.
Anybody?
By having Atma Vritti,
Atma Vritti.
constantly having Atma Vritti.
Okay, some people say by constantly having Atma Vritti, you are removing Anatma Vritti.
No, you accept, I mean, it's there, it's going to be there, but I'm not that.
Jagan Mithya.
Anybody can remember some line from Drishya Vivekaha? Yatra yatra mano yati. What is the rest?
Tatra
Tatra tatra samam.
Yatra yatra mano yati tatra tatra samadhaya. What does it mean? Yatra yatra mano yati, wherever the mind goes, tatra tatra samadhaya. It perceives only Brahman. Right? So, in Brahma Sutras, there is a section where Vyasacharya says that whatever you perceive, yatra yatra mano yati, whatever is in front of your mind, it has only two things. What is that? Atma plus Nama Rupa. Right? One is Satyam and one is Mithya. Where is the question of avoiding Anatma? Because that Anatma is there in present in your face all the time. Yatra yatra mano yati. Wherever the mind goes, Atma is there, Anatma is there. And therefore Vyasacharya says, however, Anatma is Mithya, and Mithya is something which is not there at all. Where is the question of avoiding Anatma which is not present at all? That is the key. To see that there is no Anatma, that all Anatma is basically only Atma with name and form, which means Mithya. That is the key. That is the withdrawal. You don't need to remove Anatma Vritti. You simply need to see it as Atma. And therefore he says, Sarva Kamebhyaha Nispraha. Spraha is basically Trishna or Raga. So we have to supply Dvesha also. So he is saying that only by understanding that there is no real Anatma, that everything is Atma, only by that can you really develop detachment from Anatma. And Shankara adds that Sarva Kamebhya means Drishta Adrishta Vishebhya. So if this Kamaha, if this Ragaha is not addressed, you may be sitting for meditation, but your thoughts will be on the object of your Raga. And therefore, Viniyatam Chittam. Your mind should be withdrawn. So why should it be withdrawn? Because you have only one mind. So you cannot have one mind preoccupied with the objective world, another mind available for Atma Dhyanam. There is only one mind that we have, and that is why Viniyatam Chittam, it has to be withdrawn. And when it is withdrawn, Atmani eva avitisthate. Having understood that Atma is there everywhere, having understood that Anatma is nothing but Atma, the mind has what? Only Atma Akara Vritti. And Shankara in his commentary he says, Viniyatam should be taken as Ekagratam, one-pointedness. There is no separation between the mind and the Atma. Why? Because the Dhyatru, the meditator, is Atma, of course, and the Dhyam, which we thought of until today as Anatma, I have re-evaluated it and said that Anatma is also Atma, and therefore the Dhyatru and the Dhyam are both Atma. Where is the question of any separation at all? That is why we say Vedantic meditation is not thoughtlessness. It is yoga philosophy which talks about culmination of meditation in a thoughtless state. In Vedanta, we don't say that. We don't accept that. And of course, we are not saying a thoughtless state is not possible. But we are saying it is of no use. It is of no spiritual value at all. So what is Atma Akara Vrittihi? I am the consciousness principle by which the world is known, by which the body is known, by which every thought in the mind is known. Even the state of mind where there are no thoughts, that thoughtless state is also known by this consciousness principle. This is one form of Atma Akara Vritti, thought which you can entertain during Nididhyasana. Remember, there are several thoughts possible in Nididhyasanam. The only condition is that it has to be connected with Atma. So you can say, I am the consciousness that illumines a thought. I am the consciousness that witnesses a thought. I am that thoughts don't disturb me. All the thoughts that you have been entertaining, as long as they are dealing with the Atma, they have a technical name, Akhanda Akara Vritti. Akhanda means non-divisible. That vritti is non-divisible. That non-divisible flow of thoughts, here Krishna is calling Atmani Avasthanam. And you can have any number of these thoughts. Aham ekaha, aham asangaha, aham ruparahitaha, aham arupaha, aham sakshi, aham shuddhaha, aham nityaha. All these are Atma Dhyana. Right? Normally, remember, all of us, we are deeply identified with RC. And we identify with the OC only during Gita class, 1 hour a week in Vedanta class. So, Ahankara is the wearer of the dress and Sakshi is the dress. That is the normal state that we have. The wearer of the dress is called Veshi in Sanskrit. And the Sakshi is the Vesham. The dress is called the Vesham. So normally Ahankara is the Veshi and Sakshi is the Vesham. In Nididhyasanam, we have to reverse these roles. Slowly, slowly, you have to identify with the Atma all the time and then identify with Anatma only when transactions are needed. And therefore, Nididhyasanam should ensure that normally the Veshi is the Sakshi and Ahankara is the Vesham. Your normal state of affairs is Ahankara is the Veshi, Sakshi is the Vesham. After prolonged Nididhyasanam, Sakshi should be the Veshi, Ahankara should be the Vesham. And therefore, all defects, all problems belong to whom? The Vesham, the Ahankara alone. And this state is what Krishna calls Yukta Ityuchate Samadhi. This state of mind is further described in the next verse, which we can take up in the next class. Any questions? No questions at all. Are you stunned? Are you guys what you call understood, not understood?
No, it's a very deep study, so we need to more contemplate on all these things.
Okay, what I will do is we have 7 minutes left. Okay, so if you guys are okay for 3-4 minutes after that, I will take you through a very short Nididhyasanam session.
Ji. So, Acharya ji,
Yes.
that a yogi should have a minimum number of transactions.
You will have. You have to eat, you have to talk to people, you have to teach. You will have transactions. You can't avoid having transactions.
Oh, Acharya-ji.
Yeah.
And all the transactions, like you mentioned, though at the Anatma, but they have to be thought of as at the Atma level only.
Atma is Akarta.
Yes, but the vritti behind it always has to be that this is Brahman, this is, words can't describe it, but Atma everywhere, Atma vritti.
If you are able to see Atma everywhere, you don't need the Bhagavad Gita at all. So don't confuse things. All this is taking you up to that stage.
Okay.
Right? Right now, the basis is that we are RC. We think we are RC. The whole idea is that we should think that we are OC. And the whole movement is towards that. That is why you'll find a certain duality in a certain amount of confusion in explanations, because while you are explaining, you have to presume you are the RC, but you have to understand that you are the OC. So there's always that duality.
And the other thing you mentioned was that even Vedanta, the vritti, because it is present, though it is very subtle, and the triputi differences of the triputi are not apparently there, yet they exist in nirvikal samadhi, and it's a state of duality. So does that mean that the concept of Advaita is only intellectual? I mean,
No.
the final what we can reach is only that.
Any concept is only intellectual. You cannot have a concept anywhere else.
Okay, thank
You
you.
know what I mean? The reality is non-duality, but any concept you have is dualistic.
Yes, very profound, challenging to.
Very challenging.
Thank you.
Okay, so I'll ask you all to sit back. I'll take you through a very brief Nididhyasana session so that you understand why we are doing these things. Okay, let's try to take you through a small session and we will see what can be done about it. One of the normal problems which we all face and a lot of questions which have come up is that other people behave like this. How am I supposed to handle it? Many of you all have said that privately in class also. So we will look at, see, Nididhyasanam is just not about ingraining the idea that I'm Brahman, but it's also about addressing all the other problems which my RC has. So let us look at a situation where we are living with other people and we are subject to so many problems. Okay, so we'll go through a small meditation session. Living with other people is the idea. How to handle that. So please sit back, close your eyes, and this is going to be a guided meditation. As I speak, you have to think about what I am saying. There is no discussion, no talking in this session. You will just think about what I am saying, about the words which are coming out of my mouth, and try to assimilate those words, try to internalize them. So please sit back comfortably, close your eyes, take a few deep breaths. And we are going to think. I face different situations. I also have to interact with different types of people. Could be friends, could be family members. All are individuals having their own views, having their own opinions, having their own habits, having different characters. So as I say these words, try to visualize in your mind any people in your life whom you are having these kind of interactions with. So they have different characters, they have different behavior, they have different ways of reacting to my interactions. They have goals in life which may be completely different from mine. I may like some of their goals. I may not like some of their goals. I may like some of these people. I may not like some of these people. When the other person, remember that whenever I say person, you have to replace in your mind with some person whom you are interacting with. I may not like that person or his behavior. And when his behavior does not conform to the pattern in which I expect him or her to behave, then my mind gets disturbed. This person could be my husband, or my wife, or my in-laws, or my children, or my grandchildren, or my neighbor, or my neighbor's children. But when that behavior disturbs me, this dislike, when it happens constantly over a period of few weeks, few months, few years, this dislike can turn into a nagging source of mental disturbance in my mind. And I have to recognize that this mental disturbance can go away only if the dislike goes away. The dislike can go away only if my expectation about the way that the other person should behave, when that expectation goes away, then the dislike will go away. Then the nagging mental disturbance will also go away. And to understand the other person, I have to stand in his shoes, in his or her shoes. I will never be able to understand another person from my viewpoint. I have to step into his shoes. Just like as an elderly person, I will never understand why a teenager behaves the way he or she does. I think that it is unacceptable form of behavior, while the young person will think that he is perfectly justified in his behavior. I think that person should stop. The young person should stop that behavior. The young person thinks that I should change my outlook. And therefore, if I have to accept all types of behavior, I have to learn to look at everyone from their own standpoint. I have to adjust and not complain. I have to accommodate different types of people, different behavior, different dress, different languages, different value systems. Without that, I am subject to constant violation of my expectations. When I decide to understand and accept all, when I decide that other views are equally reasonable, when I decide that I am not going to be a fanatic view holder, then only my family life can become peaceful, my social life can become peaceful. I accept everybody with all differences. I accept people as they are. Okay, that is a very short sample of what you can do in your sessions. Here, of course, I'm addressing a very simple problem which has come up many times. How do I adjust to other people? But you can address various things: anger, jealousy, disturbances of mind. Many things can be adjusted. Over the next few weeks, I will try to take you through some more sessions. Okay, so with that, we'll stop for today. Any questions?
That was very nice, Acharya ji.
Yeah, that's the basic the idea behind the session is that this is not a theoretical science, right? Gita has to bring about transformation in my life.
Yeah.
And therefore, whatever I learn has to be implemented in this form.
Please do these as often as possible.
At least during this particular chapter, we'll do. I'm not sure how we can find the time for anything else.
Acharya ji, the problem sometimes which occurs to me is that this is fine that one can accept other people as they are. The problem is the clash with the ideas that you have with your own self. So the problem is not the other people, it is our own ideas which are there. So if I am, let's say, reading the Bhagavad Gita and there is a way of behavior which is explained in that, and I have an idea that this is the way how things should be. It may be acceptable that the other person may be doing, but there is a clash between that. How does one handle that? It is not the other people, it's our own minds and ideas which are so fixed, which is the problem.
Handle your mind. The first thing is to handle your mind. The first thing is to drop expectations. The moment you say somebody else should behave in the way which Krishna says, that's an expectation you've set up. Krishna is not talking, he's talking to each individual person. And we can change only ourselves. We can never change anybody else.
Thank you.
Acharya,
Yes, Deepaji?
before accepting others, I think we should accept ourselves first. That this is what we are.
Well, you should know what you are, and then you should aim at becoming what Krishna says you should be.
But the biggest problem with us, we don't accept us. We live in an illusion.
So that's the whole idea of every session, right?
Yes.
Every session should point out to you what you are and what you should be.
Thank you.
So there's one question, like you said that during the session that the value system may not be the same as ours.
Yeah.
Very similar to the first question this lady asked about the idea. So we have a value system which is also being strengthened because of the Gita classes.
Correct.
And then we say that, what I mean to say is there has to be a limit to the acceptance. Like we cannot accept like a person having a completely adharmic value system. Where is the limit to the acceptance then? Like, are we just going to accept it because the person is a family member and you have to deal with that person on a daily basis?
It depends on whether it's an adult or a child, right? If it's a child, then it is your role to basically tell him or her. But if it's an adult, then a lot depends upon what kind of relationship you have. That person is willing to change for your sake. And there again, you have two ways of accepting this, okay? One is to say that, fine, I can't change the person, so let me not bother. Right? And therefore, that person continues in your life, but you stop letting it bother you. That requires a very, very strong mind and a complete conviction in what you have. And also, it requires a lot of affection for the other person, because to continue to stay with a person who is constantly at loggerheads with you, I know people who do that. I'm not saying not possible. I know people who do that. But it requires an extremely strong mind. And the other one is say, fine, this is not working out, so I walk out. That is also one's option. But then you are throwing away the opportunity that the Lord has given you to check on your FIR daily. You see, that's one more angle. Having a person who irritates you every day is a great opportunity Ishvara has given you. If you can take it in that way. If you can't, then it's better to separate. So that is always there. I mean, there are no right and wrong answers. Everything is a product of circumstances. But I would say one overriding consideration is that if your spiritual sadhana is not being disturbed, then whatever is there in your life is okay. If your spiritual sadhana is being disturbed, then you should probably consider, a change.
Thank you, sir.
Oh, Acharya ji, here I have to say something that when my mother-in-law was there, she used to, behave in a something like we have a differences in opinion or something like that. So I used to tell her, ki, why are you doing this? Why are you not following this thing like that? But now she's no more. Since 2 years, she's no more in our world. So now I feel that whatever she was doing, the same thing I have started to following that. So I don't know how it is. It may be I don't know. I don't understand why it is happening the same thing to me. What I used to tell her, don't do, I'm doing the same thing here. So maybe the
So values change with your time, your thoughts change, you know.
yeah, maybe, yeah. So, and this session that you are saying that Anatma and Atma is the one. So here we have to drop the binary form, like?
No, binary format is very much. Actually, if you look at it seriously, the binary format is basically only a name. It's actually unitary format. It's a non-dual format. Because though we say Anatma and Anatma it's Mithya, right? So Mithya Vastu doesn't count. And though when you are saying binary format, don't think of it as two things. Basically, it's only Atma. You can say it is Anatma because you recognize Anatma. But in that recognition, you must also know that it is Mithya.
Thank you, Acharya.
Okay, so let's stop with this. Thank you for the patience. Om Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vasishyate Om Shanti 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 Om Tat Sat Om Namah
Om
Shivaya.
Tat
Thank you for your
Sat. Om
patience.
Namah Shivaya.
Thank you, Acharya.